Well, thank you so much for that. I feel like I've learnt loads. That was really interesting, and I'm already, my mind's, with the work we're doing with schools and students, my mind's thinking how we can feed all this in. So that's brilliant. I know that people, if anyone wants to ask a question, we've got a few minutes. So if you want to pop it in the chat, you're welcome to come on, but if you don't want to kind of speak out loud, feel free to ask in the chat and I will ask those questions for you. I suppose while I'm waiting for that, I had a question, was whether if you met any resistance to, I know some school students say they might find resistance to their plans, and if you ever met any resistance, and if you had any ways that you kind of persuaded people or overcame those kind of resistance to kind of becoming more sustainable. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, either of you.
Yeah, I mean, we're quite lucky at DMs that, you know, I think the company's already bought into our kind of sustainability vision. So we don't come up against a lot of resistance, but when we do, I think it's really important to kind of think about it from that other person's perspective, and to try and explain in their eyes, why it would be beneficial for them or their area of work. Because I think in sustainability, there's obviously a benefit to the environment or people, or sometimes both, which is, I'd assume, what is kind of driving the kind of ambition from the people within our team. But then, someone in finance, for example, they would want to see a kind of benefit on the bottom line and a kind of cost benefit to the company. So I think sometimes we need to think about it from another perspective. So working out what that kind of benefit in a kind of financial sense might be, for example. So I think that's one way we look at things. Jack, I don't know if you've got anything else to add to that.
I think the only thing I would add, that's a great point, and it's something that is really hard to do. So give yourself some slack when you're trying to work from other people's perspectives, but also ask them questions and let them really tell you what their perspective is. But I think the other important thing in sustainability is always to remember the why and make sure that that why is really, really clearly communicated to people. So for Genix Napa, for instance, our why was all around reducing waste, which would help us reach our net zero targets, and constantly communicating that and reminding people that this is why we're doing it. We're not necessarily doing it to sell millions of pairs in the first instance, but we're doing it to progress over perfection, and we're doing it to make sure that we start moving towards our sustainability targets. And I think, as Jess said, when you're working with a group of people who are already bought into sustainability, it's something that can be quite effective.
Brilliant, thank you. And some positive feedback coming in the chat. But one question is, how did you come up with the name of the new
Genix
shoe?
Napa name?
Yeah.
No real meaning behind it, to be honest, but the Napa is leathers that we use, and it has a similar kind of texture and the Genix Napa material.
Jack, you've gone a bit glitchy. Oh, you've come back now. Oh no, you're still a bit robotic.
Can you hear
but
me?
Yeah. Maybe say it again.
Blame it on the Dr. Martens Wi-Fi, but yes, no real meaning. It looks like one of the leathers that we use called Napa, so that's why we drew the comparison there.
Great, thank you. And another question was, when you mentioned about making your big goal to reach net zero by 2040, and then the smaller steps such as zero waste to landfill by 2028, who did you report to about progress on these?
So those kind of smaller stage targets, Jack mentioned the sustainability committee, which is chaired by our CEO and other kind of members of our leadership team, and those take place every every 6 weeks, I believe. No, every quarter. So they're fairly regular, and within each of those, we kind of provide a status update against each of our sustainability targets. So that's the kind of internal mechanism we have. And then externally, each year we publish a sustainability report as part of the annual report. And within that, we provide an update against each target as well. In some cases, we aren't able to give a kind of numerical update, like a percentage, for example. So where we're not able to do that, we are looking at implementing systems that in the future will enable us to do that. But in that place, we kind of talk around the projects that we have going on that are kind of working towards those progress points. So, yeah.
And then do you get feedback, has it been a success? Do you get feedback from your consumers, about the your kind of direction of sustainability and the new shoe? And how do you feed that then back within the organization about, whether it's a popular item and more people would like to see more sustainable products from you?
We get feedback all the time from our consumers, but also from our staff as well. So we work really closely with our store staff, for instance, who give us a lot of fantastic feedback from what they're hearing on the shop floor. In terms of Genix Napa, the whole point was to get that feedback. So we've got lots of different mechanisms in place, be that looking at social media, be that looking at the actual data from the products that are being sold and understanding what's happening through that data, but then also running specific insights projects as well to ask consumers directly what do they think. And because it's a test, it's been a success, but it's been a massive success already. We've got to iterate and learn. So we've learned a few things and we're currently implementing those things now. And then in the next 3 months, we'll learn more things and implement those things. And so it really is a kind of incremental process, which can be really frustrating. But I think that's the point with sustainability, is you've got to take these small steps, because if we all just bet everything on a reclaimed leather, then it might not be the right decision in 5 years' time. So we need to always react to what our consumers are saying, but also what the data is saying, and what it's going to sound cheesy, but what the planet needs, because ultimately that's what drives us.
Brilliant. I think we've got time for one last question. And I might make it this last one about yourselves. So you are very shy about being called experts. What do you think are your top skills in the sustainability team?
Oof. Yeah, I guess we're both a bit self-deprecating, but I think within our team we've got such a good spread of knowledge, which is what makes us a fabulous sustainability team. I'd say for me, my areas of expertise are obviously reporting, and I'm also looking at the kind of human rights, ethical trade side of things as well. But I like to think I have a good baseline knowledge of the kind of all aspects of sustainability, because you've got environmental and social, and there's also governance, which is kind of within the umbrella of ESG. So I'm a kind of jack of all trades. Handing over to Jack.
I'm a jack of all trades too. But I think Jess touches on a really important point there. Is anyone who wants to work in sustainability, I think it's really important that you have a baseline knowledge across a broad range of topics, because sustainability is so broad. It's not just about reducing carbon, it's also about reducing waste, ensuring animal welfare, ensuring people are treated fairly. It's a real broad spectrum, and you can't just focus on one thing. So that's something hopefully both Jess and I are quite good at, is taking that broader view. I think something we're also good at as a team in Dr. Martens is bringing people together. It's really important for any sustainability team to work really cross-functionally across any kind of different team, because ultimately we're not the ones doing it on the ground. We've got people in our manufacturing suppliers making shoes, we've got people in our stores like selling shoes to our wearers, and understanding how they think, bringing them into the conversation and understanding how they think we could deliver sustainability in a really effective way is probably the most important part of our job.
Brilliant. Thanks so much.